It's so easy to trust God with the big stuff, but it's the little stuff, the day-to-day things you say, I got this, God, I can handle this. And then you realize you can't. Julie thought that I was acting weird. I was acting kind of strange. I didn't feel strange. I was walking kind of funny, and she said, your eyes looked all gray. The worst thing about COVID, I want to repeat this, and through the whole experience is, you're totally, utterly, completely alone. Every day you can see it's getting progressively worse. And I'm going, how's this happening? Finally, after a while, I called my wife and I said, Julie, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And I'm looking down there and trying to figure it out. Then off on the right side, gets all light, and a man walks out of the light. Comes and stands next to me and puts his hand on the bed rail just like I was and facing myself. He says, so, what do you want to do? I'm trying to figure out why God saved me. I can't even question why I got what I got. That's beyond my mind. I can't deal with that, but I can deal with, okay, now, you brought me through. You matured me a lot more. What's next?
Well, Alec, thank you so much for talking to us today.
A pleasure.
Well, I know it's been a while. You and I, chatted last year, beginning of last year. But take us back to your upbringing. What were you like? Did you know Jesus growing up?
Okay, I was raised in a Christian home, a very traditional Christian home. My mother and father were great Christians, great examples, and I had every advantage of learning what I'm supposed to learn. We came to California in 1964. I was basically a 7th grade kid, and for all intents and purposes, I grew up in Los Angeles. So I've lived here the rest of my life. And I've always considered myself a Christian from the very beginning, but it really didn't mean anything in the beginning. I remember in college, I finally got tired of it all. I had actually had a verbal conversation with God one day. I'm walking across the campus in college and said, okay, I'm tired of playing church. I'm tired of playing the game. I'm done. I know you're God. I know you're in charge, but I'm out. I'm okay. And within a day, I met my future wife, who God had just gotten a hold of later in life. So I was going down, she was going up, and we met, And it's been an amazing partnership since then. We've now been married 50 years, and we're looking forward to the next 50.
Amen. So what happened after the conversation you told God that you're done? Like, did you have peace about it after you finished your conversation with the Lord, or did you not have peace?
I felt peace in that I knew I wasn't going to be playing church anymore. So after that, there was no church playing, and God got a hold of me and said, oh, I'm not done with you yet. And that's when he brought Julie, my wife, into my life. And we've been dragging each other along spiritually now for 50 years. When I'm down, she's up. When she's down, I'm up. And it's been pretty amazing. Right now, she's taking a special, I call it a class, but it's more than a class. She's enrolled in a 1.5 year long program sponsored by the Dallas Willard Ministries. And it's an intensive study of how to become a disciple of God and not a disciple of yourself, and how to be in God's kingdom and not your own kingdom. And so she's been going to that and bringing it home and discussing it with me. And so in effect, we've both been going to it. I'm doing it vicariously through her. And it's just amazing how God has brought us along in this past 1.5 years now.
So interesting. 50 years of being married to each other.
Yeah.
Walking with the Lord together for 50 years. But what has changed you since I would say summer of 2011 or even fall 2011, has your walk with the Lord even got closer or stronger? You're on fire for Him more since what happened to you? And take us back to what happened to you last year, I believe beginning of 2021 when you had COVID.
Well, the thing that brings you closer to God or will drive you away is having kids. Because you realize it's more than just you. You're now responsible for other people as well. Because they're children, they're in this world, and you're charged with teaching them, setting an example for them, showing what a Christian life looks like, not just giving them a bunch of head knowledge. And sometimes I'm successful, and sometimes I'm not so successful in showing them what a Christian is supposed to be or what it means like to trust God for everything, the little stuff as well as the big stuff. And it's so easy to trust God with the big stuff, but it's the little stuff, the day-to-day things you say, I got this, God, I can handle this. And then you realize you can't. And that's the sobering thing of it all. And that's what I've been learning more and more every year about the stuff I haven't given to God. I remember a sermon I heard about 25 years ago. And it was about giving things over to God. And the minister was explaining how he had a dream about giving things to God and how as you give them to God, He'll light up other areas of your life that you need to give to Him. It's a continual process. You're never there. Anybody who thinks they've arrived is probably dead by now, you know. I mean, that's my joke. You'll never get to the point where you have it down pat. I'm not Elijah or one of those guys, you know, so I can't pull it off. But it's a continuous process. So you take each day at a time, one step at a time.
So when you contracted COVID last year, 2021, can you take us to that journey? What happened? You didn't think you would be in the hospital for over a week, right? When I spoke to you.
I woke up New Year's Day morning. Woke up and 6 o'clock. We don't stay out late on New Year's. We're too old for that crap. So woke up New Year's Day morning, and our what do you call it? Our procedure in the morning usually is, I'll make coffee, we'll sit down, we'll have our devotion together, we'll have a cup of coffee, we'll just enjoy the morning for an hour or so before we move on the day. And Julie thought that I was acting weird. I was acting kind of strange. I didn't feel strange. I was walking kind of funny, and she said, your eyes looked all gray. So we called my doctor at 6 in the morning on New Year's Day. And I got his backup partner because he was off. And spoke to me, and after a while, he said, Julie, I think you need to take him to the emergency room. She thought I was having cognitive problems of recognizing things or whatever, and I didn't realize it, and I'll accept that it was true. So we went over to the emergency room. Got there at 9 o'clock. I remember had plans for the rest of the day after we're done at the emergency room. And at the height of COVID, everything is outside. You can't even go into the hospital. They do the tests out on the patio, and you sit and wait, and finally the nurse comes over and says, we need to admit you. You really have COVID. So, okay, Julie, I'll be back in a couple days. COVID's 7 days? Whatever, it's no big deal. And they lead me to the holding area for COVID patients. And within an hour, they had me in a room. I go, how long am I going to be here? Well, they didn't know. They couldn't answer that. And all of a sudden, I'm in there, and it's getting progressively worse. So I spent about 3 or 4 or 5 days there, and the doctor comes in. And the worst thing about COVID, I want to repeat this, and through the whole experience is, you're totally, utterly, completely alone. Anybody you see is in a hazmat suit with goggles and headgear and a breathing unit and strapped to their waist, and they're in this weird gown, and you can't even tell if it's a male or a female sometimes. So you're basically alone. And it just goes on day after day after day, and you can't come out of the room or anything. And it's just, it's like you're in a different world. Finally, the doctor comes in one day and says, "We can't help you anymore. You have to go to ICU." I go, "What, ICU? Why would I go to ICU? I'm not that sick." He said, "You're that sick." So they wheeled me down to ICU after covering me up with all sorts of breathing gear and masks and everything. And you go to ICU, and now I'm in a little room. And once again, you never see people, except through the glass. You can see the nurses on the other side, but you never have anybody in your room. Nobody ever touches you. You'll go for weeks without feeling a human being touch you that's not wearing latex. And every day they come in to take an x-ray. And every day I say, "I'm not going to let you take an x-ray until I get to see it. See the one from yesterday and the one from today." So they were showing me my x-rays, and every day you can see it's getting progressively worse. And I'm going, "How's this happening?" Finally, after a while, I called my wife and I said, "Julie, I don't know if I'm going to make it. This is not looking good." I didn't feel especially terrible, but I wasn't allowed to get up or anything. And that's when the doctor came in the next day. And actually, before he came in, I have to back up. I was asleep one night, and I had a dream. And I never remember dreams, but this one I remember very distinctly. And I'm lying in my bed, and I'm standing at the foot of my bed and looking at myself lying in the bed. And I'm looking down there and trying to figure it out. Then off on the right side, it gets all light, and a man walks out of the light. Comes and stands next to me and puts his hand on the bed rail just like I was and facing myself. He says, "So, what do you want to do?" I mean, you know it's God. And he says, "Do you want to come with me now? Or do you want to stay here with Julie? And don't worry, she'll be okay." And I'm thinking about it for a second, and finally he says, "I think I want to stay here with my wife." He says, "That's okay. You're fine. It's okay." And he turned around, walked back in from where he came. And when I woke up and told my wife the next morning, I mean, she just freaked out. You don't look at yourself in a bed when you're sick. And she would say, "Well, why would God think I'm going to be okay if you're dead?" But she accepted it. And that day, the doctor came into the ICU room. And he says, "Mr. Cast, we are going to have to intubate you." And I, "What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, you're not getting better. We need to put a breathing tube down you." And I look at him and I says, "No, 40% of the people who get that tube die." And he looks at me and he slowly says, "Yeah, but a lot don't. And if I don't put it in, you're going to be dead by tonight." "Okay, put it in." So that's when I begin what I call my fentanyl holiday. You know, they put you down with fentanyl, and I think it was 9 or 12 days or something I was in that state. And that's when I had all these incredible dreams, and I still remember. I wrote them down. I mean, it's amazing. Some of the things I dreamed. It's just how your body reacts to that is incredible. And I remember waking up a couple weeks later, and the first thing they want to do is they're trying to check your brain. And I remember the nurse comes over and says, "Do you know what your name is?" "Yeah." "Oh, tell me your name." "Alec Cast." "Do you know what your birthday is?" I gave her that. "Do you know where you are?" "I'm in the hospital." "Do you know who the President of the United States is?" I remember looking at her and said, "Well, when I went to sleep, 2 unknown guys in the House of Representatives were fighting it out, and I'd never heard of them before. Who is the president anyways? Who won?" That's when she just looked at me and said, "You're fine." Yeah. So That began, then I went into the rehabilitation stage. So that was another 2 months.
So if you don't mind sharing with us some of the dreams, because you said usually you don't remember dreams, but yet this time around you remember very specifically. So the first time you saw yourself lying there, obviously your spirit and your soul already left your body. The Lord allowed you to see that.
That's before they put me under
Yes.
under the fentanyl.
Yes.
The fentanyl dreams are kind of crazy ones.
So were you aware that Jesus came to you and asked you? Did you know that was Jesus? Came and asked you?
Yes, I did.
So you knew.
There's no question in my mind who it was.
Yeah. What was his tones like? What did you experience?
Just calm.
Peace and joy and just
calm and peaceful. And so, what do you want to do? Your choice. You can stay. You can come with me. You know. But I'll never forget don't worry, Julie will be okay. So don't let that make a decision. I assume that to mean don't let that be something you make your decision based on, whether she'll be okay or not. No, I just felt, wow, God's with me. The amazing thing is what I didn't know all this time, while I was going on this journey here, there were people all over the United States praying for me. People I'd never heard of. People I didn't know. I mean, there were churches up in Oregon praying for me, and the Bay Area. There was a Catholic church in Scranton, Pennsylvania that was praying for me. A whole bunch. And the amazing thing is also, I found out later, that every single one of the nurses in ICU, while I was there, came by my bed, stopped, and prayed for me. I mean, it's amazing. I had so many people praying for me. When I found out later, absolutely blew me away.
The power of prayer.
Yes.
The power of prayer.
God's good.
He's amazing, and he loves you so much, and he loves Julie so much.
Oh, yeah. And he just, the rest has just been a story of just getting back to what my life was. Excuse me. But it'll never be what it was. I mean, I'm a totally different person now. I mean, I look at things a lot different. Look at things with a lot different urgency than I did before. And yeah, it's just amazing how things change a lot. And while I was there also, I had my partner who was in the next office who covered for me. She took care of my finances, paid my bills, whatever. But before they hit me with fentanyl, I made sure I called and got some money in the account so she could pay my bills. And I had everybody doing everything they could to get me through this.
Take us back to when they stopped putting fentanyl in your body. What kind of dreams did you have? And share with us some of the most powerful dreams that God allowed you to dream of.
There were crazy things, though.
Like what?
I traveled all over the world. I spent a lot of time in the Bahamas.
In your dream?
In my dreams.
Wow.
Everywhere I went, though, every dream I had, I was dreaming that I couldn't walk. I couldn't get up and move. I was trapped. I found out later it's because they have compression shoes on you when you're lying in bed in the ICU, which keep your feet immobilized and keep you from having heart attacks. So I had airplanes that I couldn't get up and leave the airplane. I was up in Alaska on a fishing boat. I mean, down in the Caribbean. I mean, I was all over the place. I did a lot of crazy, nutty things. None of them I call very spiritual. Okay, they're just your mind going crazy on the drugs. But,
so nothing spiritual.
No. I can't say that it was, because I was under the influence of drugs, and so who knows where that's going to come from. But all along, I just know that since I woke up, and God's been working with me day by day by day, and put me in a rehabilitation hospital, And the people surrounding me, just, they had their craziness too, because I was one of the few COVID people in there, COVID survivors. Most of them were elderly people that just weren't all together. And it gives you a new sense of what it's like to not have your brain. I mean, it was very sobering. But one of the great one was, there's nothing to do in the hospital. What are you going to do? You watch television? You get 3 channels. You know, there's nothing you want to waste your time on watching TV. Your brain can't concentrate on reading, so I couldn't do any reading. So I play music on my phone. And I'd have nurses coming over and just stand next to my bed to listen to the praise music I'm playing. They just find a reason to come over and listen. It was pretty amazing.
What kind of worship music did you play in that moment? Do you remember? Do you have favorite worship music that you...
My favorite artists?
Okay.
I like Lauren Daigle, Hillsong.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 names that immediately come to me. Right. But there are a lot more. I'm not going to remember them all. You listen to them all.
Right.
Yeah.
But in that moment, whoever that you remember,
whoever I can pick out the YouTube on with my fingers, without falling asleep, it was interesting.
So my next question is, after you came out and now that you're, I would say almost fully recovered, and you just shared earlier that your walk with the Lord is very different now. Your priorities changed too. Can you share about what's the old Alec before you had COVID? What were some of your priorities that you thought was important that now you don't see as important anymore, but now your priority, what you see is important now, back then you didn't think it was important?
The best one is, like I told you earlier, there's things I can't do, and I thought I could, but I can't do them. I don't have the power, I don't have the strength, the depth to do a lot of things that I thought were no big deal. And one of the ones that I told you earlier about a major thing that happened to me also, even though I came home from the hospital, I could barely walk, and I've been working on that, and I'm pretty good now, but I still never was able to breathe very well. So the doctor prescribed oxygen machines for me. So I was on oxygen at home and wherever I went. And being able to breathe and to talk were still an event, because I'm always coughing, I'm always running out of breath. I had my lungs evaluated, and they said you have 59% of your lung left. Okay? The other 41% is gone. I'm saying, okay. Obviously, there's nothing I can do about that. And it brought me to the point where I'm willing to say, God, heal me, please. So I had people pray for me specifically for that. And God healed me within a day. It's all gone. I can breathe fine. I don't use the oxygen anymore. The only time I'll have any trouble breathing is what I had before I got sick. When you're up at high altitudes or something like that. But God took care of it. I'm really thrilled for my second healing. It's almost like God healed me 80% the first time, but I had to go to a certain place to have a certain amount of faith that God can and would and will do it if I allow Him to. And He healed me. This was just 3 weeks ago that God gave me my second healing. And I'm ecstatic. It's amazing.
So your faith in Him now even stronger, grew stronger and stronger.
I'm looking for what He has for me now. What's the next thing? What do you want me to do now? Because my prayer has always been, okay, you saved me. You didn't save a lot of other people. I don't know why. So obviously, what do you have for me that I should be available for? And because my daughter's a close friend. He's my age, and actually excuse me, my daughter's close friend is my daughter's age, obviously. And his brother was just down the hall from me, and he died. He didn't make it. While I was in the hospital, they wanted to give me an experimental drug, and they came and said, look, we have one dose left of this drug. The person it was supposed to go to has died. We'd like to give it to you, offer it to you. Do you want it? I don't even remember the name of the drug, but bring it on. I mean, all these things broke such that I got all these breaks that, why did other people not get them? I don't know. I'll accept it, but obviously God has something for me, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. And obviously it's beyond what I do here for a living.
In your job, you meet a lot of people, all different backgrounds, different type of people. How do you see them now? Because you have a lot of important clients too, but how do you see, or how do you treat them now versus before you got sick? Do you see the Lord, what you went through this past year and a half, that God have slowly, open your spiritual eyes and to see the deeper things of the Lord, rather than what we see of the worldly things? What we see, we believe, but what we don't see, we obviously we don't believe. But what you went through, can you see that the Lord have opened your spiritual eyes? That's what you ask Him. What plans do you have for me now? And what about the people, your clients? Do you treat them different? Do you see them as Christ see them? Do you love them more, even if they don't believe in God?
God's still working on me on that one. I am trying to conduct myself professionally the way God would want me to. Not to make a living, but to conduct myself professionally according to His will and what He wants. Because there's so little time left. And I mean, that could be years, it could be days, but I mean, you realize when you go through something like this, you really understand where it says in the Bible, your life is like a vapor. And boy, that vapor goes by fast. And I'm at the stage where I have a lot of older clients, and every month or so, one of them dies. And you kind of go, yeah, it's a vapor, you're right. So God, use me for what you can while I'm available. And I'm still working on that. Hopefully God's never going to be done with me. I've got a lot available. I don't know what He's going to do with me, but I'm here.
What about your wife, Julie? Has her faith changed since what happened to you?
Oh, geez. I mean, I feel like a baby Christian next to her now. She's the one who's gone and done a number of these. Well, let's start all over again. She is trying to bring us both, well, bring herself and then bring me along with her, to being able to be open for what God has more than any of us did before. I'm just amazed at how much my wife has grown in the past 2 years. It's incredible. I mean, what was important to her is not important anymore. She would rather take her time and spend it dealing with people for Christ than doing the job she had. And she keeps saying, should I retire? Should I retire? Well, if you want to, but that doesn't mean you can just stay home and paint. We have to do something. And we talk about that a lot. What's next for us? So she's far more involved in our church than I ever was, because I never had a chance. I've been too busy with work. So it's changed her a lot, though. But she had COVID at the same time I did. But she only had it for 7 days, and she called the doctor. He says, you're fine. Just stay home, go to bed, sleep it off. You'll be fine by the end of the week. And she was. I got it from her. I almost died, and for her it was almost an afterthought. So
Have you asked the Lord why? I mean, it's interesting. Something He want to teach you? He want you to know?
I asked him that, and that one I haven't had an answer. I said, how come she got off easy and I didn't?
Maybe ask him in a different way, a different question. Maybe the question you just asked, not really what you want to hear.
I want fairness.
Lord, what do you want me to learn from this?
Yeah.
What am I missing? Why?
I'm trying to figure out why God saved me. I can't even question why I got what I got. That's beyond my mind. I can't deal with that, but I can deal with, okay, now you brought me through. You matured me a lot more. What's next? And it's funny, I was talking to a good friend of ours who's fighting dementia. It's a lady my wife and I both know. And I was talking to her and I said, I'm still trying to figure out why did God save me? I don't know. It's just, Alec, maybe God saved you just to tell your story. Maybe that's the whole reason. People need to hear your story. But I'm still going to, here's another one example. Since I got out of the hospital, I've been going to physical therapy to try to build my strength back and build my breathing back and all that. And actually, I was at my physical therapist yesterday. And he said, Alec, what's happened to you? You're breathing fine. What's going on here? What's different? How come you're breathing okay? He gave me a chance to just say, God did it. And he said, yeah, but what else? No, God did it. So, people are seeing the changes. Yeah, we'll see what happens next.
Do you have a message you want to share with those that the Lord leads to watch this testimony, Alec?
Hey, God's there no matter what. Even when it hurts. Even when it doesn't look good. It's not pleasant. God is there. God is in control. He's in control of everything. And I'm not in control of anything. I think I am. We all think we can control things, but we really can't. God's in control. And so, be ready to yield to God, to let Him show you what's next. And I don't have that down pat. I'm still working on that one. I'm still asking God to continue to work on me. And every day I'm feeling pretty good what God has done. Like I say, God's great. He takes care of us always, even when we don't think we're being taken care of, we are. Yeah. Yeah.
Every aspect of it. From little things to big things. He said, I never leave you nor forsake you.
And He hasn't.
Never.
It sounds like a cliche, but it's not. It's true. God is always there to take care of us for what He wants us to do. Sometimes, for some people throughout the church, it's calling for them to be killed for it. Other people, they have another job. Everybody has a job. Accept the job God gave you and let Him help you do it.